topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where for the last 17 years, we have brought you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Folks, I'm telling you, this is like one of our longest running experts. Barry Fowler with Taxation Solutions has been with us probably 15, 16, maybe since we started. And we do 2 shows a month. Barry has his own show he does, which we'll be telling you about. But Barry's the president and founder of Taxation Solutions. Write that name down. You never know when you're going to have a problem with the IRS, or maybe you have a family member, or maybe you have a friend. Write this down, Taxation Solutions. He's an enrolled agent. He's licensed to represent taxpayers before the IRS. We know what that means. Barry has been doing this for over 40 years. And I got to tell you, it's so nice doing a show like this, because we get your questions. You send questions in on our chat line. Let me introduce you, my friend, Barry Fowler, Taxation Solutions. Good morning, Barry.
Hey, Steve-O, how are you this morning? Man, sorry about that. Just terrible timing here.
That's okay. Hey, listen, I had the lawnmower people out last week. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just, so Barry, this is your first time doing TikTok with us. And I really want to spend today introducing you to people, because what you do for your clients, I got to tell you, you hear all kind of national commercials, and I do my due diligence, and I like to look and see what the Google reports say about these companies. And there's so many of them that say, hey, they took my money, and then I rarely heard back from them again. So I want to start off today. Tell people the background of Taxation Solutions.
Well, I've been doing taxes and tax resolution for, close to, 40 years here. Got started in it early, and, we have seen just from helping people with their taxes that, the IRS comes after people, and they basically are merciless. I mean, they're going to start out sending you, letters and nastygrams saying, hey, you owe this money, you got to pay this money. And then people naturally ignore it. And so out of that grew our company, Taxation Solutions, to actually respond and help people fight the IRS. And, we've seen other companies out there who, talk a good game, make promises that they can't in any way, shape, or form keep. And we needed to do something a little bit different, be able to communicate with our clients, talk to them, tell them what's going on, every step of the way, being in communication with them and helping them fight the IRS. Now, we can't do it alone. I mean, we need our clients' help, because they've got the information and they need to be able to provide it to us so that, we can represent them. So it's a partnership between us and our clients to help them get the best deal against the IRS and actually do what we're going to say we're going to do and follow through with it. but it takes a commitment also from our clients to follow through and be completely honest with us as well, so that we can get the IRS stopped and off your back. Because that's really the end of the day, is being able to get some sleep at night, being able to not worry whether they're taking and levying your bank account or garnishing your wages or taking your Social Security, and being able to go back to living your life in some shape, some form that allows you to be able to basically rest, relax, and not look over your shoulder.
Barry, from doing the show with you so many years, I have learned so much. One of the things I've learned a lot is that people try sometimes to try to handle this themselves. I can talk my way out of the IRS. I can leave out certain things. And I've learned that people who start off trying to handle this themselves usually make it worse when they finally do come to you.
Absolutely. I'll give you a good example. Just in the last week, we had a gentleman signed up his business. He was dealing with the revenue officer. He thought he had it under control and could do everything he wanted to do. And basically, the revenue officer got frustrated dealing with him because he was trying to control things without knowing what to do. And she went and levied his bank accounts. She levied against the people he worked with. And he has zero money coming in. And now she's like, oh, okay, well, he hired you guys. So obviously he's lying about everything else he said because he can afford to pay you. Well, he managed to get some money from friends and family for us to be able to make the phone call. We're actually working with this revenue officer right now and getting her to lift those levies against the people he works for. And to stop levying his bank account, to give us time to straighten things out and get his business back going so he can actually afford to make payments to the IRS on these payroll taxes that he owes. But he wasn't going to be able to do it himself because, he didn't know what he was doing. He misspoke on a few things and it got him in trouble. And now, we got a revenue officer who's not really a happy camper, is trying to do everything she could possibly do to destroy his business and his life without regard to keeping him or his employees actually employed. So we're working right now to give him a chance to be able to do it. And sometimes that makes a huge difference. As my wife always says, that, if you're going to do electrical work, call an electrician and let him get it done first, the first time right, rather than you screwing it up, calling him and having him to fix it again. And now you've just cost us double or triple because it was harder for him to fix after you already messed it all up.
Hey, Barry, you do your own show every Monday at, I believe it's at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Is that right?
That's 10 o'clock Eastern time, Tax Talk for You. You can go to taxtalk4u.com, and it follows this show right here on W4CY Radio. So you can catch it there. We're actually going to talk today about the IRS collection process, the whole process from beginning to end, what the IRS does to you as a taxpayer when you owe money. And I mean, it's probably going to be a show that if you owe money, or maybe you just got done filing your taxes and you owe money and you want to know what the collection process is, we're going to explain it to you. So tune in and you can hear step by step the whole collection process.
Well, Barry, I wish you could see what I'm seeing, the people who are coming on the show and the questions that are coming in. There's a question that a lot of people are asking, wanting to know, what if you can't pay the IRS? What do you do?
Well, you could be like most taxpayers and stick your head in the sand and just hope for the best. It usually does not turn out very well. You have options depending on your income, depending on your assets, your equity in your house, all that. You might be able to get into offer and compromise, which man, you hear that sold all across the airwaves. If you're listening to radio anywhere or seeing it on TV, everybody promises the offer and compromise. It might be better for you to get into an installment agreement, or maybe you don't have any money at all and you just need non-collectible status. They also do partial pay installment agreements. So there are multiple options available. But what we really need to do is sit down and do an analysis and analyze your situation to figure out what you qualify for, and then get you into that program that you should be in based on how you're qualifying. And the IRS, if you ignore them, they're going to levy your bank accounts. They could even garnish your wages. If you're on Social Security, I've seen them garnish Social Security, which is just incredible that you're not even getting that much in Social Security, and they're going to go after that as well. So you kind of got to watch what you're doing, how you do it, and then figure out with us, what's going to be the best program. And if you got a tax problem, we offer free consultation. So call us. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about your situation. Let's go through everything. Determine what is going to be the next step. And that goes just calling us at 877-996-6477. Again, it's 877-996-6477. And let us talk. Let's do that free consultation. It's not costing you anything except a little bit of your time and your honesty to be able to help determine what kind of program you can get into with the IRS and how we can help you. And to be honest with you, if we determine that it's something that you could do easily yourself, we're going to tell you, hey, do this, X, Y, and Z. Get yourself into this payment program or whatever we determine with you. And, maybe it's more efficient or more effective for you to do those couple of steps by yourself rather than paying somebody to do it. And then where we can help, we'll explain how we're going to help you, what we can do, what we see you qualify for, and get you that solution.
I've actually had two friends of mine that I recommended to call Barry, and he told both of them that there's really nothing we can do for you. You can do this on your own. And I guarantee you, many of these companies would have said, well, pay us $5,000, pay us $3,000, whatever the case is, and then you never hear from them again. So it's really true what Barry's telling you. Barry, we've got so many people on TikTok wanting to know about the Fresh Start program. And I laugh about that because we've talked about that many a times.
Well, that Fresh Start program is designed by what?
Government.
The government. That's the IRS. It's not a program designed by a tax relief company or anything else. It was the government to get what? Fresh money from who? You. I mean, that's what the government lives off of, your money. Well, and debt too. That's a whole other topic for a whole other program. Incredible amount of debt the government has. But it's getting fresh money into the IRS. Here we're going to design a program that sounds really, really good, allow you to get into an installment agreement quicker and easier without having financial information. But basically what that means is it's a money grab. If we can get the money from you, we're going to get it, no matter what it takes. They've got to pay their bills and our debt and interest on the debt. So getting that money from you sounds great when it's a fresh start, getting you a fresh start. They do offer in that Fresh Start program, like an offer and compromise. They say it takes a little less to get into the offer and compromise, but it's not true. If you have the ability to pay, you're going to pay. If you got equity in your house or other assets that you have equity in, they're going to want that equity that's in that house or other assets before they'll grant you an offer and compromise or anything else. So, you got to watch when they're telling you, hey, we can work within the Fresh Start program. We work within the Fresh Start program. It's the IRS collections program that they're offering today. So kind of watch your back, watch what they're saying, and then, take that sales pitch, as you may hear on the radio, with a grain of salt.
Let's go again to TikTok, wanting to know, can you be held personally liable for your business taxes?
It depends on the business tax. So there are multiple things that happen in business tax. If you're an 1120, which is a C corporation, the corporation itself is subject to those income taxes, not you. If you are doing payroll and you owe payroll taxes, there is a portion of payroll taxes that will not be assessed against you, and that's the portion that the company owes. However, if you're a business owner, business manager, signer on the check, make decisions for the business, you can be held liable for what is called the trust fund portion of those taxes. Now, that trust fund portion is the portion that you actually withhold from your employees' paycheck. So when you're paying somebody, let's say their gross pay is $1,000 and you withhold $200 for federal withholding and Social Security and Medicare, that portion is what you would be subject to trust fund taxes, and you could be held 100% liable for. Now, they'll set you up on a payment plan for the company to pay for that back and you to pay that back. And as you both pay, it'll reduce those trust fund taxes. So you're paying the same tax, but you're held personally liable, and you both have to pay, the company and you personally.
Speaking of businesses, Barry, if you're a business owner and you're trying to handle this yourself and you call the IRS, do you realize you can be on hold for 3 hours? Is it really worth it instead of hiring a company like Taxation Solutions? Because people don't realize, Barry, that once they retain you, they no longer have to talk to the IRS anymore.
No, they don't. So you become a client of ours, and we step right into your shoes, and we start representing you, and that IRS agent or the revenue officer has to go through us. So we're here representing you and helping you fight the IRS. We also take the stress of dealing with that revenue officer off your plate. And I'll tell you, when you start getting into dealing with revenue officers, especially like business taxes, or you start dealing with revenue officers because you owe a lot of money, it becomes almost a personal thing. And, you're vested in it, you're personal. It's, man, when they tell you no, you take it to heart. And sometimes that's hard to deal with. When they tell you you can afford to pay and you can't, you're just sitting there going, what do I do? And the next thing you know, they levied your bank account. Now you're even in a worse situation because it becomes confrontational. We take that out. When we step right into those boots, we're ready to kick that revenue officer down the road and, help you fight the battle. And, we know it's not personal between us and the revenue officer, but what it is, it's life-changing being able to fight them. I have got a client who owes over $1 million to the IRS. And right now, that IRS agent, because we beat him on the company side, is being vicious on the personal side. And, we are working, tooth and nail, hand and fist, every tool in our toolbox to stop this revenue officer from doing what they want to do. We're going from offering a $30,000 payment plan to they want over $60,000 a month in a payment plan. They want them to sell property that is almost fully mortgaged and they get nothing out of, but he wants to be mean and try to take the property. and they get nothing out of it, but that's what the revenue officer wants to do. We're throwing every single appeal right, every possibility. We're going through collection due process hearings so that we can keep that property and get the taxes paid. And we're pulling a few other tricks out of our book because the revenue officer went off the rails a little bit and did a few things he wasn't supposed to do. So we're using those against him as well through some of these hearings. And at the end of the day, we'll end up winning, and we'll get it down to the payment plan that our clients can afford to pay and are willing to pay, and keep the property and be able to keep them going down the road. It's taken a lot of cooperation from our clients to get to that point, but we will get there, and it's going to take a lot of time. So we may be 2, 3, 6 months before we actually get to where we want to be, but we're going to use every single tool in our toolbox to get it to that point and stop that revenue officer from being the way he wants to be.
Next question from TikTok. What are red flags that the IRS looks at to cause them to audit a person?
Well, some of the red flags are really simple and really easy, and that is, you leave off W-2s or 1099-Rs or maybe even Social Security income. You leave that off, and then they do the matching type program where they're matching your return to the information that they receive from people that you worked for, whether you're in business or not. The other red flags would be inflated, like charitable contributions. You get over the standard deduction and you've made more charitable contributions than most other people do. And then you have a lot of red flags when it comes to Schedule C. And when you're dealing with Schedule C, the IRS kind of thinks that if you're running a small business, a lot of people lie, cheat, and steal. And they only lie, cheat, and steal against the IRS. So they have AI that looks at it a little bit closer, and they're looking at the return. So maybe you've used round numbers. Well, it's an almost automatic red flag. It's really hard to have every expense and income item being a $10,000 number or $20,000. So it's just a complete round number. Having higher deductions than would be normal for your type of business. You think there's a reason for a business code on Schedule C, and that is so that they can look at kind of trends and what people claim for expenses against that kind of income. So, that's what they're looking for, and that's what they see. Audit rates are a little bit lower these days, but some of these things automatically kick out based on the computer system review of tax returns. And a lot of times it's correspondence audits versus actual in-person audits these days.
It's funny. We just got a text from TikTok from a truck driver, Barry, and he said, this is correct, because this is Barry's first show on TikTok. We've been doing the show together for 17 years, but it's funny how someone just said, what do you do for a truck driver? Because your company does so much for truck drivers.
Well, we do resolution for truckers all across the country, as we do for everybody else. The truckers, God bless them. They do a lot for this country and moving goods across the country for you and I. If we went to a store and there was no truckers, there would be nothing there. Every time you walk into any store, that was brought by a trucker, somewhere across the country. But these truckers are on the road, almost 7 days a week most times. And, they're moving goods. They get very little time, home with families if they're making money and working hard. And the last thing they want to do is bookkeeping or taxes. So they end up in massive tax debt because, one, they didn't realize that they were self-employed if they're an over-the-road trucker. And, and they're not claiming all the deductions even when they go to certain preparers who are doing it. But the last thing most truckers want to do is sit behind a desk and do bookkeeping or taxes when they get home. They want to spend time, with their wife and their kids when they're at home. And so we have a sister company called Trucker Tax Tools. You can go to truckertaxtools.com, where you can see that we do bookkeeping and taxes for truckers all across the country at a reasonable price, so that we can help the truckers. You can call us here at the same phone number as Taxation Solutions, 877-996-6477. We can talk about our bookkeeping and tax services. If you owe the IRS or haven't filed in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, we can help you with that. Again, it's 877-996-6477. Let us help you. And I mean, that goes for any kind of business person out there or individual. If you're running a small business and haven't filed in a number of years, we can help you with that and get that caught up, and then come up with a solution to the tax debt that you may owe, being a business person, because you didn't have somebody helping you and telling you what needs to be done as a business person for tax purposes as well.
I want to add to our show, with TikTok, we don't ask for any gifts. We're here to educate you, and we appreciate all your questions you've got coming in. We just had a question come in. What if the IRS has taken money out of my account? Can you for sure get it back?
Yes, no, and maybe. What an answer, isn't it? Yes, we have experience in being able to do it. No, not all the time can you get money back from what the IRS took out of your account. Now, if it's been, more than 30 days, it's going to be definitely no way we're going to get the money back, because the bank has already transferred the money. If you have, and we can show a need for that money for normal, everyday living expenses that the IRS would allow, we could potentially get some or all of the money back. Now, there are also exceptions to that as well. Maybe you had your Social Security number on your kids' accounts or parents' account, and we can prove that none of that was your money, was somebody else's money that went in there. We can get their money back. We've been able to do that. But again, it's got to be within the time frame that the bank is actually holding the money, because once the IRS gets their greedy little paws on that money, you're going to be hard pressed to get them to release that money back to you for any reason whatsoever. And mainly because it's been more than 30 days. You obviously didn't need it that bad. And so they're not going to give it to you. But there is no guarantee. There are no promises that we could actually do that, or anybody can do that. And if they do promise that, get it in writing that they'll give you all your money back if they've made that promise. And I almost will guarantee that they won't make that promise in writing. And they didn't really promise, they just said possibly. But you heard the word promised in that conversation because that's what you wanted to hear. And so you kind of got to watch what these people say, because it is always full of probability, possibility, maybes. But you're hearing that P word of promise instead of possibly.
Here's another TikTok. And I got to get to our texts that come in too. But since we're so new to TikTok, I want to get as many of their questions in. Here's one that says, I have been ripped off twice by these big ad firms, and I want to know, why should I, after being ripped off so many times, should I hire your firm? That's a good question.
Stephen, that's a hard one, because, we hear it all the time from people calling, well, I got ripped off by XYZ tax relief. And And I sure hope there's not an XYTZ tax relief out there. I'm just making up a name. But we got ripped off by these guys, and why should I trust you? Well, it would be hard pressed for me to say, I could trust somebody after I got ripped off by, somebody else doing the same thing. All I can say is that we're not promising the moon and the stars and everything else out there. What we're promising is that we're going to work diligently hard on your case. We're going to be in communication with you. We're going to tell you where we're at and what's going on step by step. We're going to bug you for information so that we can get our stuff done. Now, if you choose to ignore us, I can't do anything about that. I can't help you. But when you choose to come to us, you're choosing to take a proactive approach with us here at Taxation Solutions to get the solution that you qualify for as quick as possible. Now, offers and compromise take a year, maybe 18 months before the IRS will accept or deny. But as soon as we can possibly file that offer, we're going to have that offer in there. But then you've got to stay in compliance so that we can continue to have that offer standing out there and waiting for the IRS to accept, and then stay in compliance after that. So, my way of convincing you is that we're going to work hard for you, and you can hold us to it. We're going to be in communication with you, but you've got to be in communication back to us.
This is from Deborah in Davenport, Iowa. Love your show. When is a tax return or payment considered late?
Well, a tax return itself, if you did not file an extension, was due April 15th. Now, if you filed the extension, your tax return itself wouldn't be due until October 15th, because you get that 6-month extension. Payments work differently. There is no extension of time to pay the taxes that are due on April 15th. So if you are calculating your return or you owe taxes, that would have been due April 15th of this year for 2025 taxes. Now, if you owe just $900 or less when you file in October, there won't be any penalties on that. They give you at least that little range there. But if you owe $10,000, $20,000, that was due back on April. It's not due October when you actually file. So you get an extension of time to file, but not an extension of time to pay.
This is from Craig. Craig wants to know, can your firm get the IRS to remove penalties and interest on taxes I owe?
So the way the IRS works is this: interest is not removable. Now, if we get your taxes adjusted or something, then yes, we can get the interest reduced to the amount of the actual tax that's owed. Penalties, there are some penalties they allow us to be able to get removed. And then there are penalties that we've got to file the forms and request the removal with good reason. So we kind of work with you hand in hand to determine if we've got a reasonable cause to remove penalties from you. We've been able to do it based on a reasonable cause. And sometimes we're able to do it just convincing somebody on the phone that, hey, we need to get these penalties, and they allow us to get some of the penalties removed. And it kind of varies depending on what the reasons are and what we can come up with working with you to get those out there. Now, the fun part was when you become a client of ours, we automatically do penalty abatement and request for penalty abatement, and we never charge for penalty abatement unless we're successful, because we know it's hit and miss with the IRS. At the end of the day, it's purely up to them. And if we're not getting paid unless we're successful, we work even harder to get those penalties removed for you, so that, you know, we can earn something off of getting those penalties done, even if it's only getting $100 or $500 or $1,000 removed. It means the same to us to be able to do that as it does, you know, getting, you know, $50,000 or $100,000 in penalties removed. You know, we want to be successful because it helps you.
If you're on TikTok watching us now and you have a question, you can send your question in. Here's from Vic in Orlando. Do you mind sharing one of your hardest cases and what the results were?
Well, you know, one of our hardest cases is more of our most frustrating case is we had a offer and compromise that was we worked really hard, really diligently on to get to the point of being approved. And we tell people all the time to be truthful, be honest, reveal everything to us. And this guy owed close to $500,000, $600,000 to the IRS, and we were actually getting a settlement that was right on the verge of being approved for about $1,000. And the IRS does their due diligence. We worked and spent tireless hours to get it to this point, and last minute the IRS came back and said, your client owns $1 million piece of property free and clear. And we went, what? Called the client up, talked to the client. He goes, yeah, you didn't need to know anything about that. How did they find it? So, most frustrating case, we worked tirelessly to get this offer to be approved, only to be slammed to the mat because somebody didn't reveal to us what they had. Not only that, but after talking to him, he found out that he owned even more property than what they found, and had sold it off to his son in cash, and had more than enough money sitting in a safe to pay his whole debt back in cash if he so choose to, but he never bothered to tell us any of that. So most frustrating, great case for us because we were working it and we had it to that point. One of the most proudest cases we had, we actually took a client who was a truck driver who went through an audit and lost because they couldn't provide any information. Took us about 2 years of working with them to go through a complete audit reconsideration over 2 years, reduce their debt from $1.5 million to close to $300,000 because we won in audit reconsideration. The debt that was still outstanding was more debt that fell outside of those audit reconsiderations that we didn't need to do an audit reconsideration. And we were working with them to refile certain tax returns, and we're working to reduce that debt as well. So it didn't take an offer and compromise. It didn't take payment plan. It just took fixing tax returns from people that didn't know what they were doing and getting those tax returns correct and fixing an audit problem that they didn't have representation on.
You know, Barry, I think people have a false sense that, you know, because they haven't been contacted by the IRS, that they're in the clear, that they're not going to be contacted. I really want you to tell people what the IRS can actually do to you, because they will find you.
They will find you even if you moved and they sent you letters to your old address. Those are considered and deemed received.
Wow.
So if you've moved around and haven't given them an updated address, the IRS doesn't care. They can send you a certified letter to a incorrect address and it's considered deemed received. You can not go to the post office and pick it up and they consider it deemed sent and received, even if they get it returned to them. And once they've done all their processes that they need to do, they can now levy against your bank accounts. They can levy against your wages, doing a wage garnishment. They can take your retirement accounts. They have the ability to go after everything and anything. And you may not be receiving a letter because you have the wrong address. They're going to mail to your last known address. Just because you haven't received it, again, doesn't mean you didn't get it per the IRS. And if you don't open that envelope and read the envelope and you throw it away, doesn't mean you didn't get it either. It just means you ignored it. And so now you're looking over your shoulder wondering what they can do. Once they sent that certified letter notifying you they can levy your bank accounts, they can do it at any time they want to. Maybe they did it once and they hadn't done it in the last year. Maybe they'll do it again. Usually when they do that, it's an attention grabber. It's there to get you to start doing something to solve this tax problem as quick as possible. And that's really what they use it for. You know, I get phone calls because somebody levied a bank account. And oh, now what can you do to help me? Well, you should have called me before this.
Right.
You got that certified letter and, you know, maybe you received it, maybe you didn't pick it up. Well, I didn't go pick it up. I didn't have time. I didn't really care. I didn't know what it would mean. You got your final notice of intent to levy. You know, what do you think the IRS is going to do? They're trying to get your attention. They're trying to get you to get in here and start dealing with this problem today so that you can get a solution so you can live your life. You know, sometimes they've got to grab people's attention and sometimes they do it in the worst way, but sometimes it's the only way. You know, it's a wake-up call.
Barry, has the IRS contact a person? Because I'm seeing on here people say that the IRS emailed them, they texted them, they called them, and I've learned from you that's not how they work.
Now, the IRS is going to send you letter after letter after letter. They're not sending you an email. They're not sending you a text message. And they don't make phone calls until you've been in contact with them. So if you've been in contact with maybe a revenue officer that's been assigned to your case, that revenue officer will call you. But other than that, they're not going to do it. Listen very carefully to the words that they use, because they don't always use Internal Revenue Service. They're going to use some kind of form of that makes it sound like it's from the IRS, you know, and they're not going to give you, you know, the IRS ID number that they have. And if they do, they've just made it up. And if you think the IRS is calling you, hey, one of the best things to do is hang up the phone, call the IRS yourself. You may sit on hold for 3 hours, but
yeah,
hey, you know, sometimes it's better to figure it out if you're not sure. Now, if you know you owe the IRS money and you've been in contact with the revenue officer, yeah, they're going to call you. You can talk to them. I don't recommend it. I recommend you using somebody like us, Taxation Solutions. Go to taxationsolutions.net or call us for that free consultation at 877-996-6477. Again, it's 877-996-6477. But, you know, don't fall for the scams out there. You know, and you've seen the text messages over owing tolls, and we all hopefully ignore those. You know, so, you know, you kind of ignore those text messages. And if you do owe the IRS, you give us a call. Let's talk about it. Let's find a solution. Let's get them off your back and not worry about it. I like to play with those guys sometimes because I know I don't have any tax debt. And so I will kind of mess with them and mess with their heads to try to figure out who it is or what they're doing and what kind of scam they're pulling. And you just kind of got to watch out for it. You know, that's the hard part. And sometimes you get lien letters in the mail too. You know, the IRS places a lien on your property, anything you own, and you're going to get a letter from the IRS saying you've got a lien. But then you're going to get letters from companies out there that's going to say, hey, you owe this and the IRS is going to do this, this, and this. A lot of times those are just solicitations. And it should say solicitation on there and that it's not from the IRS. It's just because somebody's getting the tax records from the local government and sending those things out for you. But again, it's something you probably want to get ahead of, and do that by calling Taxation Solutions and let's find a solution to the problem. And that solution's not putting your head in the sand and ignoring it, but it's actually taking a proactive approach to actually man up, deal with the problem, and allow your family to get back to living their life.
I don't remember your expert's name, but I want to tell you, you have one of the best shows I've heard on here. And I want to ask you, how do businesses get in trouble with the IRS?
Most of the time it's payroll taxes. And man, if you're a business owner and we had that down economy and everything, and you saw inflation taking its toll on every single part of your business, the easiest thing to skip is what? Those payroll tax payments to the IRS. And you skip the first one, and the second one, you didn't get notified. The second one, the third one, maybe that whole quarter, and then maybe the next quarters, because that's the easiest thing to skip, although it's the one that's going to come with the biggest and worst penalties against you. But that's the majority of the time that we see business owners and stuff getting in trouble with the IRS. And if you do have a payroll tax problem, man, we're the company to call. We're going to help try to find a way to bail you out, get you back working, keep your business open and running, but help you get you into compliance as well, so we can avoid bigger penalties from the IRS down the road.
It's really scary what the IRS can do, isn't it, Barry?
It can be. It can be. Sometimes the IRS is more scared of us when we're representing our clients than we are of them, or ever fear that we ever have of them. I kind of will kill them with kindness and know that I've got a lot of tools in my arsenal that I'm going to use to win for our clients. And that's what we do, is we give them the best representation possible that's out there. Yes, you as an individual, as a business, and personally, it's right to have that fear of the IRS, because they can take everything that you have and decimate your life quickly. So you want somebody that's going to jump in front of them and stop them and buy you some time to get your life straight, so that we can work with them to get the right solution. And that's why we are taxationsolutions.net, here to help you get the solution for your life. And that's taxationsolutions.net.
And the phone number again, Barry?
Oh, phone number. See, I always forget these things. It's a free call, free
little things.
It's 877-996-6477, 877-996-6477. And hey, if you mention right here on Ask the Experts and TikTok, YouTube, we're going to give you special discounts. Also, we'll give you 50% off tax analysis, just to help you start finding a solution to your problem.
Well, Barry's going to be with us again this month. We will let you know. Barry's show is every Monday at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And Barry, God, I can't believe we got so much from TikTok today, and it's going to really build on the people who watch the show. Have a wonderful week. God bless you, bro. We love you. We'll see you soon.
Hey, thank you, man. We always enjoy doing this show. And if you're here, tune in over W4CY Radio coming up here in just a few minutes, taxtalk4u.com. We're going to go through all IRS collections. Hey, Steve, have a God bless glorious week. Thank you, everybody.
Barry, how do you do this? You did a 50-minute show now, and you're getting ready to do another 50-minute show.
Hey, why don't you tune in here at 10 o'clock and find out?
Okay, you got a deal. Thanks, Barry. It's Barry Fowler, Taxation Solutions. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back in with you tomorrow with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.